Wrestling feud. Think of how many people that pop into your brain when I say these words and then bam, somebody else flies in, they're forever linked. Like me and being bald. It even makes some individuals' careers because their level of work is so good, you can be set for life. Even as recently as 2024, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre did this. At the end of the year, they were different men. So who has been able to do this across the sports entertainment landscape? Well, I am Simon Miller, and can you believe it? It's time to find out. Number 10, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McInness. So you had to be there to use the classic phrase. The crazy thing is there are likely new fans who think Bryan Danielson is just an AEW dude, and Nigel McInness is a commentator. That hurts. This was updated in 2024 when AEW let these two tangle one last time. That's why it's so important. Way back in 2006, they first met in Ring of Honor when the American Dragon wanted the Pure Championship. Then yes, Nigel wanted Bryan's world title. Here we go. They were both such technical skill, it was like watching two fighting soulmates come together, and some of their ROH spats, well, at times they were disgusting. Real headbutts is the best way to put it. They did not do anything by halves. This went on for over a decade before Danielson went on a wild ride in WWE, and McInness found success in TNA as Desmond Wolfe. Nobody ever actually thought they'd cross paths for another time. As we just mentioned, All Elite Wrestling got born. It was one thing when Bryan signed on, and even another when Nigel was a commentator, but he'd been long retired. Or so we thought. We should have been more smart about it. Because at Grand Slam, they were finally done with the slight verbal jabs and got back in the flipping ring. It was like time stood still. It was 20 years ago again. Amazingly these days, if they do it one more time, the doubt would be on Danielson's head. He is seemingly done in the ring, whereas McInness comes and goes. But we can but dream. They are joined at the hip. Number 9, the Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks. Matt Hardy breaking himself in 2016 was that classic shift all legendary teams go through. They were seemingly reborn, Jeff hopped on board as well, and they were on top of the wrestling world again. Then in 2017, they left TNA. It seemed like that was the first step to get back to WWE, but before that, the Hardys headed to Ring of Honor. They knew what the fans wanted, so we did get Matt and Jeff versus the Young Bucks for the Ring of Honor tag team titles. We were serious as the Hardys got their hands on those belts at Manhattan Mayhem and then lost them back to Matt and Nick in an excellent ladder match at Supercard of Honor 11. As fate would have it, the Bucks and Matt Hardy would end up in AEW, and you know the deal. Jeff was always going to get involved too, and at 2022's Double or Nothing, oh yeah, let's do it again. Given the Hardys won, this was going to go longer when Jeff got injured. Then soon after, his personal issues reared their head again. It wasn't good. We did squeeze in one final contest in 2023 before Matt and Jeff went back to TNA, and look at it this way. They are two generational teams, so the fact we got to see them clash at all, well, it's the magic of wrestling, man. And somehow it always seems to happen. Number 8, Booker T versus Chris Benoit. So you know my deal, I struggle to talk about Chris Benoit these days, and you can probably figure out why. The reason the Booker T versus Chris Benoit feud is interesting though, is because WWE essentially just copied WCW. There is nothing wrong with that, even more so this was 2005, and WWE had long bought their competition. During that period, Book and Benoit competed over the US title, as an in-ring controversy over the winner did indeed spark a best-of-7 series, with Chris going 3-0 down before fighting back. There were twists and turns too, especially when Randy Orton was Booker's stand-in for a while, because Booker T got hurt. In January 2006, he was good to go again, and we were able to sew this series up, which is exactly what happened in 1998. World Championship Wrestling 7 years beforehand had done the same after Benoit cost Booker T the same championship against Fit Finlay. It just meant we needed a new #1 contender, best of 7. Of course, during the second time, hardcore fans loved it because it did feel nostalgic, if not a little on the nose, but Booker T and Chris Benoit just had great chemistry. So if you do want to give him 7 matches, why the flub not? Number 7, Walter versus Tyler Bate. I wrestle these days for UK Promotion Progress. I'm just being a nerd, so I had to get it in there. I was even the Proteus champion. So you're right, internet, wrestling is dead. And look, I'm not just trying to tell you about my life here, because in September 2018, the same company hosted their biggest event ever at Wembley Arena. In case you don't know, that's a big old place. Something huge was always going to have to headline, and yet we went with Walter versus Tyler Bate, or essentially David versus Goliath. It felt like the future Gunther would swat the smaller man aside, but this is wrestling, damn it. He found a way to chop Walter down, and some of the near falls, London was convinced Bate was going to win. The Ring General got the victory instead, and this must have got the attention of WWE. A year later, both were in NXT UK, and at TakeOver Cardiff, we did a part 2. Many people say this was even better than their first encounter, although Walter did win once more. He lariated Tyler's head off for the 3. Of course, as of me talking, they are both in WWE, so maybe we do Britney Spears this and do it again. Probably should. It's always great. Number 6, Edge versus Christian. The fake brothers. Always like to point that out because, man, nobody has ever done a better job in convincing the audience than these two. People actually think they're siblings. It's a shame the first breakup happened in 2001 during the invasion angle, as it was really good. Just got bogged down with all this other nonsense that was happening. It was after Edge's King of the Ring win drove Christian to the point of jealousy, so he whooped his ass. Even beat him for the Intercontinental title at Unforgiven. The next step due to the belt was an awesome ladder match at No Mercy, and they basically went their separate ways. I mean, there were occasional clashes in tag team matches, but it would take AEW to start this again. This was 20 years later, which shows how mad wrestling can be. So Adam Copeland, as he was now known, surprised us all at WrestleDream 2023 and let his buddy know, damn it, I want that TNT Championship. Copeland did win the belt at World's End, only to lose it back to Christian instantly. It wouldn't be till 2024 when he finally secured it properly. The story doesn't feel finished either, as surely we get a tag team run sooner rather than later. That always makes me laugh. They were together in that sense for like a year. That's the impact they had, though. Some of the best to do it. Number 5, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. I mean, if only TNA had realized what they had in like 2010. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe should have been the be-all and end-all of the promotion. For some reason, other entities always got pushed harder. I blame Hulk Hogan. Along with Christopher Daniels, the trio had one of the best 3-ways of all time at Unbreakable 2005, but 5 years later, Styles and Joe were tangling all the time in one-on-one matches. The world title was often on the line too. Their final singles clash in TNA was 2013, and soon after, both were on different paths. It would be another 5 years before they clashed once more. The cool part was when they did reignite in WWE, it was during AJ Styles' second WWE title reign, and that surprised us all. It was amazing that Styles even got to WWE given some of the stuff that was thrown at him, and now he was here, he got pushed properly. Dude was flying. It also meant Joe was a contender for the belt across 4 pay-per-views: SummerSlam, Hell in a Cell, Super Showdown, and Crown Jewel. If you also need a verbal reminder for your brain, this is when Samoa Joe would often go after AJ's wife with a "Ooh, Wendy." He was screwed up. I think it's fair to say their TNA bouts are considered the peak, but the fact they got to do this on what we all consider the grandest stage. It's just cool, I tell ya. Most hope that Joe and Styles would at least be given a shot, and they got to do a program for the World Championship. Cannot hold good talent down. Number 4, Ric Flair versus Randy Savage. Randy Savage and Ric Flair really were perfect foils. They were both over the top and good at what they did, whereas Randy had Miss Elizabeth, whereas Flair's whole character was he liked to sleep around. That is how their 1992 feud kicked off because, yep, the Nature Boy doctored photos to suggest that Liz had left the Macho Man without him knowing and was having an affair with Rick. I mean, you couldn't go any more soap opera. It led to a great match at WrestleMania 8, which should have been the main event. It's a long old story, but for whatever reason, Vince McMahon decided he didn't feel like Hulk Hogan versus Flair should be at WrestleMania, so he put Sid Justice in that position instead. Do not let it annoy your brain that this wasn't for the world title. Of course, it does not matter today because we all benefited, and yeah, Flair versus Savage was the highlight of the night. Randy even won the world title. A few years later, Savage and Rick found themselves in WCW, and I suppose Flair never forgot. He attacked Randy's father Angelo as they went at it again at the Great American Bash and Bash at the Beach. It never really ended because they continued this war for years, often going after the World Championship. I suppose on every single occasion, they just knew what made the other guy tick. Number 3, Mitsuhara Misawa versus Kenta Kabashi. The concept of the 4 pillars of wrestling began with All Japan. Toshiaki Kawada, Akira Taue, Misawa, and Kabashi. They're all so dominant and important they were dubbed the foundations of the promotion. It meant the various combos would light up business all the time, with Misawa and Kabashi arguably being the top of the tree. They fought all the time, including over the company's Triple Crown. In the year 2000, there was a changing of the guards. A lot of the wrestlers left HEPW to form something new, Pro Wrestling Noah. And how do we get people interested? Kabashi versus Misawa. It was for the now GHC Heavyweight Championship and the wars they had. It helped establish things here too, and didn't really end until Misawa's tragic death in 2009. What makes their rivalry so special is that it crossed promotions, but also got 5-star reviews all over the shop. You could call them the perfect combination, and I just have, and I'm sticking to it. Number 2, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. Halloween Havoc 1997. If you have not seen Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio from this WCW pay-per-view, change it today. Not only is it one of the best matches ever, but it probably changed American-style wrestling forever. They had met a few times down in Mexican company AAA, but it was in World Championship Wrestling that told the larger audience what they'd been missing. In 2005, WWE had them both under contract, and honestly, if they hadn't have done this, people would have raged. It would have been so obvious. The opening match of WrestleMania 21 is therefore excellent, and it had a story. After Eddie failed to beat his then tag partner, he lost his mind and told Mysterio that his son Dominic was actually his child. That's right, that's where it was all born. You're also well aware of the next step when we get to SummerSlam. We did indeed have a custody of a kid ladder match. Whoever won got to have Dominic. I mean, that really is quite bizarre. Looking back now, though, there is a certain wonder to it all, especially because, Dominic Mysterio debuted in 2020, and he has become a sensation, and he hates his deadbeat dad. It all tied into the lore. Number 1, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. I mean, it is the forever feud. It's gone everywhere. Now, this does focus on the fact that maybe, just maybe, Sami Zayn could have once been El Generico. And we cannot confirm that for sure. In Ring of Honor, though, they started as a team and even won the tag titles in 2008. At Final Battle 1999, it all changed, though, because, the then Kevin Steen turned on his best friend, kickstarting a war that not only went crazy in Ring of Honor, but all the way to PWG too. Most would say the highlight is the crazy ladder match they had at Final Battle 2012, when they basically killed each other just because they wanted to win the ROH World title. You should go and watch that today too. You'll be like, dude, that's not worth it. Jericho then left for NXT, and of course Kevin was soon behind. WWE just hit the copy and paste button. Because on his first night in, the now Kevin Owens went after his old buddy, who had just won the NXT title. Let's go. It then, of course, got promoted to the main roster and even made it all the way to WrestleMania. They totally deserved this, but if you had seen them a decade prior, this blew your brain. It's just not what WWE did. That is why they are a couple of old-timers, however. They broke the mold, and they did it their way. And if nothing else, when they come together, it is a proper all-timer program. Know of any other awesome feuds that are able to cross promotions? Please do let me know in the comments below before you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share. You can also click the video on the screen to get even more nonsense from me. Otherwise, take care of yourself, my friends, and I will talk to you again soon.